Carla, we often hear that screenwriters shouldn't always write their personal story because they're so close to it.
Yeah.
Do you feel that's a myth?
I think you can perfectly do it. It's just that you have to know that it has good things and bad things, you know. So in my case, I think it's very interesting when you, like, I need to have some kind of connection to be able to talk about something, you know. But when you talk about something that you know so well because it's your own life, you have this access to the material, and you can, it's like you can answer any question about these characters and about what happened and about why it happened or why they feel like that, you know. So you can answer any question to your actors and also to your crew. And for me that's very interesting, you know, like you have a very, you can portray the world in a very complex way, you know, because you know a lot about what you are talking about. But obviously then you have to find the right distance, you know, and to be able to talk about that. And that's difficult as a screenwriter and also as a director when you are in the shooting, you know. So that's the difficult part.
So that's what you mean by maybe the bad things is finding that distance?
Yes, yes, exactly. So I think that the difficult part is to just not fall into some kind, like, to be able to be kind of objective, you know, and objective, you say, yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, to kind of portray the good parts and the bad parts of the characters, you know, and just to not. So you like, for me, I felt this sense of responsibility to be fair to the characters because they exist, but at the same time, I discovered that they probably made some mistakes on their way as well, you know. So I had to also explain that, you know. But it's, I think it makes it more interesting, you know.
Absolutely. Well, I think you had a teacher when you attended London Film School.
Yes.
And that professor or teacher encouraged you for your first feature to write about what you know.
Yes.
And you took it literally.
Yes.
So can you talk about, was it like an aha moment? Were you sitting in class, or where you said, I'm going to do this?
Well, it's like the philosophy a bit of the London Film School. It's a lot about because it's so international. So you have people from everywhere. So they kind of encourage you to see what defines you, you know, and see where you come from and kind of talk about what you know. So for me, it was a mix between what this teacher told me and also about being far from my home, you know. So suddenly you miss your family and your place, you give more value to it, and you realize that that this is what makes you different to all these people that come from all over the world, you know. So it was a mix between that and the fact that I made a short film about two siblings that found their grandmother. So when I finished that short, I realized that that basically that children facing death was something that that was very interesting for me, and that I really wanted to kind of talk about that and keep exploring this theme and kind of give my point of view about it.
I was looking at some of the trailers for your work, and you had one, and forgive me for my Spanish here, but Las Pequeñas Cosas?
Yes.
Those little things?
Yes.
And it looked fascinating. I haven't seen the full film, but when you're coming up with questions for your film, or when you're about to make one, whether it's a short or a feature, what are some of the questions that you're asking yourself?
When I start writing, you mean? Or?
Yeah, for a story idea.
Usually it's about, so I try to think a lot about whose story it is, and I'm fine if it's not just one person's story, you know. Like I try to think about the point of view, and because this leads me to think about their emotions, you know. So I question myself a lot how they feel, you know. And then I usually try to find like a time frame. That's something very important. Like in Las Pequeñas Cosas, it was 3 days. Now, like with the debut film, it was 3 months, summer, you know. So for me, it's important to kind of find, this time frame, you know. And then I think a lot about the backstory of the characters, because there is something that I love to portray a specific moment of the lives of these characters, but I like when you feel that they have a lot of things that happened between them before, you know. So so it's like basically we as a human beings are who we are because of all of our backstory, you know. So I love observing people like in real life and see how their relationships work, you know, and I always wonder why, you know. So I try to kind of imagine their backstory. So that's like my little game with the people I meet, you know. So so that's something that I really like to do as well when I start writing and think, okay, so the audience are just going to see this moment, but what's behind that, like what's before all that, you know.
Right, and you did such an excellent job in summer of '93 with just the looks that these characters would have, and that there was this tension, and you didn't know at first what it was, but there was these hushed tones, or and you would see the looks on Frida's face of concern, and I love that because I went in cold, not knowing what the movie was about, and it built up to that. But I think you said that you believe that the audience is intelligent enough to understand complex emotions without showing, or excuse me, without saying a lot.
Yes.
Can you talk about that?
Yes, it's just that for me it's interesting. So basically when you are in real life, you know, like you don't always have someone telling everything that's happening, or people telling exactly how they feel, you know. So real life is not, sometimes it is, but sometimes it's not so explicit, you know. So, and I like when it's like that, because so I like to show this in the film, you know, like somehow to establish this game with the audience where you just put them into a situation, and you give them some information here and there, and then they have to kind of link this and understand the relationships between the characters and understand what just happened and all that, you know. So for me it's a game with the audience that obviously they have to think a bit, you know, and but for me I feel this is more interesting, you know. So, and it's a way to, so I like subtleness somehow, you know, on the way of explaining things. And also because there is something, I always think there's something that it's very revealing to me, that when I write something and I think, okay, do I want to shoot this? Do I have a desire to shoot this scene? And usually when they have a lot of dialogue and a lot of talking and explaining things, I'm like, oh, that's boring, you know. I don't really feel like I want to shoot this, you know. So this is kind of like a good thing for me to know. And then I end up like taking out all the dialogue and just explaining things with little gestures, you know, and because I really feel like shooting this more than just dialogue, you know. Right.
So let's talk about the day you actually sat down to write it, or maybe you actually already wrote this years ahead and you finally, I'm not sure, but...
No, not really. It was actually, so after making this short, I decided I wanted to start making, like I wanted to make this as a first film. And I was about to make my grad film for the London Film School. So I tried to write a short about that, and I realized that it was too short and I needed more time to explain this story, so that's why I went to do Las Pequeñas Cosas. So the idea was there, and I shot my grad film in my village, so it was very inspiring to be back and to start thinking about this story. And I actually started writing when I finished the school, and that was June 2014, more or less, and we shot summer 2016. So it was about 2 years. But the first step to write the script, it was to go to my parents' place. When I say my parents, I mean my adoptive parents, and I spent some days there, and I talked a lot to them, and I kind of asked them a lot of questions and tried to make them remember some situations that we lived when I arrived there. And I also scanned all the pictures of my childhood, and because they were very inspiring, you know. The thing is that my memory was very abstract, you know, like I could remember some emotions, but I didn't remember like lots of specific things, you know. So the photos were very useful because they are a way to keep memories, you know, and there is a story behind each photo. So it was they were very inspiring. So between what I could remember and my family stories and also these photos, I wrote like a first draft of the script, and that was it was actually very fast. I don't think I will ever write something that fast, because it was like in a week I wrote this first draft. But then obviously it didn't have much sense, you know, it was just these moments together. It would have been a non-narrative film somehow, you know. So then it was when I started to read a lot about children's psychology and what a kid can understand when they are 6 years old about death, you know, and the adoption processes and all that. So it was a way for me to understand the journey of Frida, to understand why I acted as a child, you know. So it was very interesting to kind of do this research, and this helped me a lot to kind of organize the script and work with the emotional arc, you say that, right? Of the character, and actually I made so there is a lot of things that I invented. Like in the film, actually there are like 3 or 4 scenes that are real, and the rest is fiction. But it all the starting point of everything is like emotions or some things that really happen, you know.
At what point did you have, is it Valentina Viso?
Mm-hmm.
She came in and did she look at it after you had several incarnations of the script?
Valentina, so we met in a workshop, in a lab, and I really like her work and the director she worked with. And basically, so I wrote the script myself, but at some point I needed to finish the script, you know. So, and this is something that it's very hard to say, okay, I finished the script, you know. So I called Valentina and I said, I need you to help me to finish the script and say, okay, it's done, I can just go and shoot it, you know. So we sat down sometimes, and she was very useful to kind of say, okay, that's good, like to give me this confidence, you know, and sometimes some ideas to kind of fix the little problems that I still had with the script. So she came at the very last part of the script, and for me it was very interesting to work with her and to kind of like just feel that it was done, you know. But there were a lot of people actually, so I did a lot of screenwriting workshops, and I had a lot of feedback constantly from different people. And at some point I also worked with the script editor, that we were together for a week to kind of also keep rewriting, and Valentina came at the very end to kind of finish it. So it's like I wrote it myself, but it's for me it's very important to constantly have this feedback, also because it was this personal material, you know. So suddenly it's like there are some things that you feel they are so important, and you need to have someone from outside telling you maybe this is just because you like that, or that's very emotional for you, but it's not so important for the story, you know. So so all this feedback was actually very, very useful during the whole process, you know.
At any point did you think, well, maybe I'll just sell the screenplay and have someone else make it, or did you know that I want to write this and I want to shoot it as well?
Yeah, I never thought of letting someone direct this, because I love directing, you know, and I love working with kids, and I love writing, but it just, for me, it goes together. Like I don't see how you could separate that. Like I could see myself directing someone else's work, but I don't see myself just writing for someone else. Maybe like at some point, but for me, it's just like when I write, I think about how I want to shoot it, you know. So it's very much related, and yeah. So it also was my story. So that's why also it was important for me to direct it.
Do you feel like you were ready to tell this years ago, or were there points where maybe you, I don't know, laid in bed at night thinking, I don't know if I can share this because it is so personal? You know, it's a lot to put your own story, whatever it is, out there, because maybe people like it, maybe they'll be critical, maybe they'll feel something, but it's a risk.
Yeah, the thing is, it's like I'm 30 now, and this happened when I was 6, and I was lucky to grow into a family where we always share this like in an open way, and we always talked about it. And so it's like I've been explaining my story all my life, you know, so it kind of became a story or a tale, you know. So for me, I could really see it as a story, because that's how, like, I knew how people reacted when I was explaining them what I had lived, you know. So and I thought that there was something interesting there, and yeah, I didn't, like, I didn't make the film because I needed to make a catharsis or kind of like heal something, because I feel that I really had digested this story a long time ago, you know. And I don't think you can make a film if you are not in that position, you know, because then you cannot get the right distance. It's just very difficult, you know. So for me, it was just a way of reconnect with my past, and just think about how the people that surround me felt and why I acted as I acted. So it's like I learned a lot about my family, but I didn't need to heal something somehow, you know.
Right, right. What's your advice for other aspiring writer-directors on wanting to tell their own story and having that distance? And I think, as you said previously, analyzing yourself, and you think that that's good.
I would say that they pick some people that they trust a lot, like creatively wise, and listen to them. You know, like for me, it's important to let those people read the script and listen to the comments. You know, you may take it or not, but it's good to have this feedback from time to time when you are working with something very personal, because it's easier to get lost or to just feel that something is very important and maybe it's not as important for the story. So for me, the whole writing process, the feedback was something that it was so important. And also, if you have a producer already attached, this producer is also a person that can give you this kind of advice as well, you know.
Are you surprised at how taken people are with the film? Like, I mean, we're sitting here, the Academy Awards are coming up in just a few months.
Yes, totally. Like, for me, it's just, I just wanted to tell my story because I thought that I had the point of view on how a child faces death, basically, you know. And my producer always said, but I think that it can be a story that can touch many people, you know. And I wasn't too sure. I was like, okay, if you say so, you know, but I couldn't imagine. So the first time that we screened the film in Berlin, and it was a big screening room, and there were a lot of people, and then the lights went on, and there were a lot of people crying, and I was in shock. I couldn't understand why, you know. And then after that, like talking to people, you realize that it is a universal story, as a topic as it may sound, you know. It just it talks about childhood and family and death, so somehow people feel related to that. But I was not expecting it at all.
Are you okay talking about how you financed the movie?
Yeah,
oh, okay.
Sure. So basically, it's mainly Spanish money. We had a fund from media it's from Europe for development. So this was very good. It's not much money, but it's very good to start the funding process because it's a sign of quality somehow, you know. So then we went to the Spanish government and we asked for funds there. We got it, and we also got the Catalan government funds. And after that, we got the Spanish public TV getting the film, so they put quite a lot of money as well. And we went shooting with that, and that was 850,000 euros. So I needed to shoot more weeks, but we could only shoot 6 weeks because the kids can only shoot from 6 to 8 hours per day. So it was really fast shoot, but we didn't have more money to shoot more time. So it was okay at the end, but it was just kind of, we suffered quite a lot during the shooting because of the time. But then after that, we also had the Catalan public TV and Movistar Plus, which is like the Canal Plus in France. And this was very useful because it was like we could finish the film properly, you know. So the total budget is about $1 million, more or less. It's a small film.
And to get the process going, you had to show them the completed script, or did you just have an outline in the beginning, sort of?
So for media, because it's development, you just have a treatment. But for the rest, yes, you have to have a script. It may not be the last draft, but it's important for them to see if there is a story there, you know. So, and it's also very important, like the director's statement, you know, and for them to see how you want to shoot the film and how you want to work with actors and all that, you know. So we had a very kind of like a dossier telling how I wanted to shoot the film, and also how the producers wanted to produce it and all that. So and with some references. So it was this document and the script, and then they have a reading committee, and this committee gives you a mark, and then they just give money to the higher marks, and it's quite competitive. It's very difficult. But yeah, so if they like the project, and this, we were very lucky because it happened. So then you are fine getting this public money, but it's not easy.
And the location that you shot it at was, of course, where you spent time with your new family.
Yeah.
But you'd been back since you were a child, obviously, to that location. Okay.
I mean, I grew up there.
Okay.
And then I left when I was 17 to go to study to university, but my parents still live there, so I go to visit them very often. And my siblings now, they live in Barcelona as well, so we are like because after summer 1993 we had a brother, so we all live in Barcelona now, but my parents are still there. And actually my siblings, my sister, so Anna in the film, she became an actress and she's in the film. And my brother is a musician, and he made the music of the film. So it was very nice to work with them on. Yes.
The dynamics between Frida and Anna, those were the real sort of interactions. I know you said some of the parts were real and some were maybe more embellished or they were changed. But the looks, they were priceless. I mean, I know you said you didn't really give the script to the child actors, but the looks of the seemed as if Anna was in awe of Frida, and also maybe jealous at times, but there was an awe you could see on her face.
Yeah, no, totally. The thing is that we picked girls who were a bit like the characters I had written, and it was also very important, the combination between them, so we tried different combinations, and this really, the relationship you see on the script, I saw that it was going to be the real one that they would have, you know. So between them, the relationship was very similar to the one I had written. So that was a lot of work that was already done, you know, because they could just play these scenes, being so similar to the characters, and also having a very similar relationship to the one on the script. So that's why I think that sometimes it was easier to kind of create these looks, you know, because it was for real somehow.